Well, hey, welcome to the very last Toolbox TechTalk. Yeah, it's been a long series, and look, I've got a huge thank you list to go through. But we'll do some other things. But I really have to thank an awful lot of people that made this show happen. But first up, look, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm broadcasting to you from, which is the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung. They're the people of the Yarra Valley, where we are right here on Murumura Co-op. And I'll talk a bit more about Murumura Co-op going forward. So yeah, thanks everyone. There's no guest but me and you on the show today. Now, I really want to emphasize the fact that this is a show for you. You can ask me anything. I've already got, g'day, such developments, hi. Just ask stuff in the chat, say hi, give us a thumbs up, whatever you like. And a few people might even come in live. I've just sent a link out to a bunch of you on social media, so I can always bring you in live for a bit of a chat too. But let's kick into the thank yous. Now, look, this series started at the beginning of Melbourne's lockdown nearly 2 years ago, 18 months ago roughly. We've been locked down for about 267 days, which is insane. 6 lockdowns, so the most of any city in the world. So I thought I'd make the most of being stuck at home and just start broadcasting content. Now, initially, if you've been following this channel for a while, you realise it started off as just tech. It was all about, me drawing pictures of batteries, isolators, inverters, solar panels, explaining how they work, how they connect, etc., answering questions from the industry. And that was kind of motivated really by a group called Solar Cutters, who you probably see their branding all over the place here, the hat, the glasses, you name it, because Solar Cutters actually is a great self-help group. It's all about culture in the industry of quality and supporting each other. And it's kind of like me giving back to Solar Cutters, is trying to support the industry by producing this show. So yeah, a huge thanks to Jack and Costa for starting Solar Cutters more than 4 years ago. I think it's about 2 weeks ago. It was the 4-year anniversary. So awesome job for developing that kind of culture in the industry. So if you haven't heard of Solar Cutters, it's a closed group on Facebook, but it's much more than that. It's in the industry. If you go to any of the conferences in the days when you could go to conferences, you would see the big cutter events there. So thanks again, Solar Cutters. Now, look, I'm going to just quickly ramble through a list of people who have made this show happen, and mostly that's the guests I've had on here, and I'm bound to miss a few. But look, just in reverse order, look, I had Kane and Tyab from Kohler Solar. Now, Kane and Tyab were the last in my series of going around Australia and New Zealand, talking to installation companies, installers, people working in the solar industry at different roles, just to kind of do a snapshot of what's happened over the years to the solar industry. We've got some people who've been there for a long time. People like Dave Petrie, he's over in New Zealand, where he runs the solar division of Ideal Electrical. Had John Grimes, my old mate John, from the Smart Energy Council. Now, John, he gave an awesome show. He even closed the show for me because I lost my connection. And by the way, I'm coming to you via care of Starlink, so Elon Musk's little satellite service, which is pretty awesome, but it's still beta, and there is the occasional dropout. So if I suddenly go, it's just a Starlink packet loss. But there you go. It should get better. Rod from Fronius. Thanks, Rod, for turning up and answering some of those tech questions. Nigel Morris. What can I say? Cuzzy Bro, solar legend, podcaster, solar analytics manager of awesomeness, and an electric bike fiend. You got me watching Long Way Up, by the way, Nigel. I just love it. It is, even though I haven't got an electric bike, geez, I'd love that show. Jeremy Hunt from Darwin. Really nice to hear about, installing in the top end, the challenges of that industry. Andy McCarthy, CEO of that was really very much focused on mental health and Andy's story. So fantastic to have people like Andy in the industry. Rowan McGlue from Perth, once again, a different perspective from the WA area. Eddie May from NRG Solar in Adelaide. Eddie's a very prominent figure in the cutter community. Good one, Eddie. And on the topic of Eddies, we had Eddie Springer, of course, CEO of the Green Machine, Springer Solar from Queensland. Adrian Luke from Tassie. some awesome installations and beautiful locations in Tassie. Thanks to showing us those pictures, Adrian. Then I had my friends here from Murramura Co-op, Anne Wilson, who's my electrician, and Chelsea, who's been here longer than me, over about 20 years now, and they talked a bit about living off-grid, so that was fun. We've had Mark Colwell from AC Solar Warehouse. Mark's been in the industry a long time and moved around a bit, and we talked about mountain bikes quite a bit. Yuri Batens from Re-Electrify. That was a mixture of personal story and a little bit about his experience in the industry, he got stuck in Myanmar and with a baby and a wife, and that was pretty fascinating. Steve away. In fact, we did a podcast together. That was fun. It was getting pretty cold. In fact, I did quite a few of these shows as podcasts out in my studio, which if you're looking at the background behind me, that's actually a picture of my studio where I used to record a lot of live content, but mostly I do it in my office, which is a bit warmer, certainly in wintertime here at Murramura. Lindsay Hart, the solar legend of Cellectronic. What can you say about Lindsay? He's a great drummer too. But Lindsay was great. And we had Craig, his old emissary from Power Plus Energy. Not really an emissary, good mates, those two. Sam Frost from Vista Power Technologies, who organised things to do with EV charging here and the SMAPI system. That was wonderful to have and talk about it. Fred, if you know Fred, Russian Fred from 100 Up. He's kind of like Mr. Inga Teams, even though he's not actually employed by Inga Teams. He sells their products here, and we've done quite a few R&D stuff. Paul Wilson from RVO Australia. Paul has gone from doing just solar to doing huge battery systems for his company. I've done a few videos. I'm doing another one right at the moment on the new Titan battery that he's building. So that was really fascinating. Laurie Kane, my business partner, actually. I had him on the show. So Laurie and I started Solar Plus about 10 years ago, which is a solar design software. Jamie Ellen from Evo Power. I've known Jamie since his early days in the solar industry. And wow, hasn't he come a long way with Evo Power, producing some awesome CNI solutions for batteries. Peter Watkinson. Peter is the son of the inventor of the maximum power point tracker. I keep saying this because I think it's a great Australian story. Every inverter in the world and virtually every big charge controller is a maximum power point tracker, and that was invented by his dad, Stuart Watkinson, back in 1983 or 84. And it's an Australian invention. Wow, fantastic. Norm Anderson from Energy Smart Water. Norm's quite a character, especially with that mustache. And g'day, Norm. You're probably watching this right now. So he's done some awesome things with solar and hot water here at the Smart Energy Lab in partnership with Gerald Rimpler from MyPV in Austria. So I had Gerhard Rimpler. I had Gerhard Rimpler on the show from Austria. Guy Stewart, another oldie from the solar industry here up in Nimbin. So Guy's works for Victron Energy, and we've done quite a few projects here. Carl Zilm from South Australia, g'day, and you probably know his dad, Angie, if you know what that means. He's a bit of a solar crypto hacker, so that was really fun talking about crypto. And Anthony Vapon from Lotus Energy. So Anthony really twigged my interest in recycling of solar and other materials. So he runs a recycling business here in Melbourne. So I probably missed it a lot of people, but I just kind of did a quick run through of all the ones I could think off the top of my head. So look, wow, that's a lot of thank yous. Now, that's just the people. There's also all the companies. Now, what you probably don't know about what I do here, or some of you will, is that I'm kind of like a field testing facility and a training centre. It started 5 years ago. I used to teach at TAFE, and I used to teach the off-grid course, the on-grid course, and I used to bring my students up here for some real-world experience because it's an off-grid community and there's lots of off-grid systems, and many of them needed upgrades, and I needed, to train them on real products and real applications. But then kindly some companies started providing some equipment, and in the early days, I'm just trying to think, Cellectronic, SMA, Schneider, they just said, here, we'll give you an inverter and, some batteries, blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Train your students on them. So I've got a lot of buildings here. In fact, I think I've got about 4 or 5, which are old sheds and boat sheds and things. So we started converting them into training rooms and running training courses up here. So I gave up teaching at TAFE. I really wanted to do a more flexible delivery than the TAFE structure, which is all very good. I mean, if you need to get accredited with the CEC, you need to do a unit of competency, that's nationally recognised, and that's what TAFEs and RTOs deliver. I'm more of your professional development trainer. So companies started supplying me with product, but they also got other benefits from that, which was I would review their products for them in-house. I'd review them for the public through my YouTube channel. I'd sometimes just talk about their features. So it was a nice symbiotic relationship. So, you know, if I was going to list some names, and this is not the whole list, I just typed them in about 5 minutes ago, but some of the biggest supporters here have been Cell Electronic and Power Plus Energy. I've got to mention those two because they actually built my microgrid here. We've got a massive microgrid, well, massive, not really, but, you know, it's probably up to about 100 kilowatts of solar, in one spot, 80 kilowatt hours of batteries, more than that. The tracking system, Longy, who provided a heap of panels. We've got, 80 kilowatts of panels out on those trackers, care of Longy. Canadian Solar, who did a project here as well. S5 mounting systems, Gen Z for batteries, SMA for on-grid and off-grid inverters, Fronius, we've got quite a few Fronius inverters here, the Gen 24, the Primo, we've even got a Galvo, wow. Switched In, if you haven't heard of them, they're really making some moves in energy management and control. So VPP, particularly other services as well. So we've got quite a lot of, in fact, I think I've got 13 monitored systems by Switched In. That's really runs my microgrid. One of their lovely sunrise systems. I just love the way you can just plonk it on the ground and it works. We've got Ingot, hang on, I skipped one there. Skipped a whole bunch actually. SolarX, Huawei, Pylantec, Garo, Smappy, Enphase, Sungrow, Simplify Batteries, Studer, Varta, Solus, Sol Planet, LG Chem, AERL, Solaria, Redback, SolarEdge, GrowWatt, GE, Goodwe, Alpha ESS, BYD, Energy Smart Water, Easy Warm, MyPV, Catch Power, LG Solar, Solar Analytics, and from an installation point of view, the greenhouse effect. If you haven't heard of the greenhouse effect, Jerry Robinson, long ago we used to work together. In fact, I sort of saw that Starlink dropped out on me. It must know that I'm streaming, and they go, "Yeah, I got Solar Analytics, Nigel." And sorry about that little interruption to the show there. So I probably cut a few people off, but I was just giving a last thanks to Anne Wilson, my electrician here, who lives at Miramar Co-op, who is meticulous with quality and standards, and she makes everything here better. So thank you, Anne. Now, look, a shout out to everyone who's watching. Ask me some questions. Ask me, anything you like, whether it's technical, social. What do I do? Just ask me anything you like. So I thought, since I've been interviewing people about their solar story, I thought I'd finish with my solar story. And my solar story started 30 years ago. In fact, we worked out that Nigel Morris and I both entered the solar industry at the same time. We are not related, well, maybe somewhere in that big, family tree somewhere, but we're not immediately related. But yeah, I started back in 1991, and it was a case of accidental solar industry, also getting into the solar business. Back then, I bought, me and my then partner bought a house in the Wollamai National Park. If you know that, it's west of Richmond, New South Wales. It's out in the on the edge of the Blue Mountains, really, but it's actually a huge national park. We bought this house off Ron Strykett. He's the drummer from Men at Work, and I think it was their getaway house. It was a simple wooden house out in the bush. It was about 4 kilometres from the nearest electricity lines, and there was no services out there at all. So we had to do solar. They were running it off a generator, which is being a wealthy band, I suppose it wasn't a problem. They were spending $250 a week on diesel as a weekender. Not sure what they were doing, just running it all the time for a fridge or something. But anyway, that was why I got into solar, because my background actually is electronics. I trained as an electronics technician in New Zealand way back over 30 years ago. And I knew enough to be dangerous, put it that way. I knew enough to make a really bad off-grid system. That was kind of where I got started. But I realized I needed to learn more about, off-grid. And so eventually I got trained. So credit to Rainbow Power Company, who actually, I did their last accreditation course. They were running the accreditation course under the SEER banner back then. And I did the accreditation course with Peter Pedals. So shout out to Peter Pedals, an inspiration of how to live simply and how to do it right. So that was really great. So that was my introduction to solar, but I really didn't start doing it as a business till the early 2000s when I moved here to Murramura Co-op. And that's where things took off. And it also coincided with a bit later on with the feed-in tariffs, with the incentive programs, the PVRP program, and later on the SRES. So yeah, I became an installer and I started teaching at TAFE in the evenings as well. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into the solar industry. You could say it was out of necessity. So it started with I needed cheaper power off grid, and that got me into it. But now it's actually about giving back, training, and helping with product development and reviewing products that enter the market. So that's kind of my solar story, but I've also got an off-grid story. I've lived off-grid ever since 1991. So, 30 years now. That's basically half my life. So I'm 60 years old, so it's exactly half my life I've lived off-grid, and I really enjoyed it. I did have a couple of years back on grid for a then partner wanted to work in Canberra for government, so we had to move to Canberra, which actually turned out to be a really, really nice place. So people always bag out Canberra. That's because they've never lived there. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. But actually, if you've got a family and you've got kids and we want to, do things with them, there's so much to do there. It's really a great place for families. And also it's a seat of government and there's a lot of work. So, yeah. What else? So, yeah, that's kind of off-grid living has been my thing. And actually, that's kind of where I'm going with online. I'm finishing up with this Toolbox TechTalk because, like I said, I started it at the beginning of COVID. Lockdowns have now finished in Melbourne, we hope forever. And I'm looking forward to spending the weekends with my partner, Darlene, and our kids. So, doing something fun on the weekends rather than just, talking to a screen. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing something different going forward, which is a new channel. Now, I've already posted it out on social media that it's called Everything Off Grid. It's actually a much broader topic. I'm really going to focus on the whole experience of living off grid. So it'll be, partly the technical, partly the social, partly, all the fun things, whether it's, vegan cooking tips, because I'm vegan, gardening tips, water systems, energy management, but also the social dimensions. How do you actually organise a community? I live on one of the oldest intentional communities in Australia. It's Murramura Co-op. It's been running since 1974. There's about 70 people live here in about 30 homes, and it's, pretty damn successful actually to last that long. So, and that's because of really good systems. So it's all about how do you build the organisation and manage it. And some people think that a community is naturally a group of like-minded people. That's not necessarily the case. Certainly, once you get to a larger number of people, you'll find there's a lot of diversity. And in many ways, it's a bit like being on a lifeboat. You really have to get on with each other, even if you don't agree. So it's about working stuff out. And so I'll be exploring some of that and getting you to meet some of the people. So what I'm going to starting off with is actually a series of interviews with some of the people here at the co-op. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different, which is let's give you a sneak peek of one of those videos. Now, I won't run any audio. I'll just probably talk over the top of it. But it's really, I'm using one of the key members here, Chelsea. She's very, very social and she's great at talking to people. So I'm behind the camera for a change and she's talking to the audience. So let me just key that up, see if I can bring that up on the screen for you. Here we go. Bring that over. There we go. So just press play. So yeah, what I'm doing on the channel, it's a YouTube channel, and it's called Everything Off Grid. But I've got a request of my audience, of you guys and girls right now, is would you please subscribe to my channel? I'll put a link in the description, because I got to get 100 subscribers before I can actually use the name Everything Off Grid. So at the moment, it's just got this really long URL, and it's a bit hard to sort of point people to it, because of the when you start a new channel, you get this kind of long string of digits at the end, and it's extremely hard to type it in. So I'm just going to pop that in the chat. There we go. Oops. There it is there. So if you click on that and press subscribe, if I get to 100 today, I'd be absolutely thrilled. So just do me a little favor so I can get that channel really launched. So as you can see here, I'll just bring myself up somewhere. Oops, wrong person. Here we go. This is Chelsea with one of the members, Yin, and she's interviewing about why he came to live at Murumura. So yeah, it's quite a interesting series that I'll be doing, talking about the people who live here and their motivations and skills, and why they came to live off grid. Anyway, let me just take it back a step, see if I can get this back to where I was. Whoops. Oh, where have I gone? Now, I'm actually going to change things up a bit. You've been looking at me through a green screen all this time. You probably realise that. But thanks, Stephen. I just saw a subscribe there from Stephen. Great, thank you very much. Is my setup here. So just so you can see how all this works. Here we go. So where am I? Wrong screen. That's that one there. Okay, there you go. Got too many things going on here. Where's it gone now? That's it. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to actually explain some of all these buttons here, because people actually ask me a bit about how do I do the show. And what you're looking at now is just a side view of my desk. It started off very simply and it got way more complicated. So many people say, how do you go about, streaming a show, or even just producing content and making it look good? I mean, some really basic stuff. And let me just clear that green screen off for a second. Clear masks. Let's have a look. Get rid of that. And go back to me. There we go. And, I think I can take down my little green screen now. You know where I am. You know I'm in my office. How's that? Wow. Hey, there's heaps of questions come in. All right, I better focus on this a bit. So I've been yapping away there. And I'll come back to the tech in a minute. Come back to that. And yeah, so let's have a look. So thanks for those who've just subscribed. That's great. Yeah, Brendan says you'll be missed in this small corner of the internet. Thanks, Brendan. Dino says, is that spelled Murumura? No, actually, it's not. It's spelled a little bit different than that. It's M-O-O-R-A, M-O-O-R-A. So 2 O's, just repeated. Means friendly spirit, I'm told. So you can actually look up our website if you're really interested. In fact, why don't I just put a little caption to it here. So here we go. Murumura Co-op. Now I can actually type these things in, and you can just click on the links or type them in yourself. Actually, I don't think you can click on the link. Here we go. Just adding to the co-op, and put it up the bottom there. There you go. So let's answer that question. Kane, thanks, Kane. Kane just says he really enjoyed the videos. So Kane and Tyab were my guests last week, and they're probably pointing you towards my main channel, which is Smart Energy Lab on YouTube, where I've got thousands of subscribers, and I try and produce lots of regular content, almost every week. So that's, I put the link to that one. Just if you just go to YouTube and type in Smart Energy Lab, you'll find it. So it's a lot of content. So some of it's training material, some of it's just talking about what we do every day. In fact, I've been doing a last few weeks focusing on just what happens on an everyday basis here at the Smart Energy Lab, where we're installing stuff or fixing stuff. At the moment, we're fixing a misplaced post in a solar tracking system we've got here. And so a little bit of walk and talk with that. Mark, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dino, for subscribing. Got you there. And thank you, Paul, for subscribing. And thank you, Varun. Wow, really responsive bunch. I might hit my 100 mark today. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I'll just take that overlay off. Where are we? So people were asking me, how do I run these shows? And so I thought I'd just talk a little bit about the tech. You can do this very simply. I mean, it's amazing how we've got used to watching on television people being interviewed just on their laptop. And it's become an acceptable kind of interface. It doesn't have to be like professional video every time someone gets interviewed. And that's because of COVID. But there is some advantages to kind of stepping it up a bit. And I always say your key things are good video, good sound, good lighting. You get those three things and it'll make for a much happier viewing experience for the audience. So what I do here, and this is where I want to switch over to a different view, is, I'm not sure if the autofocus is working on this. Here we go. Focus. Gee, the autofocus is locked on. There you go, that's better. Is kind of the key things that I use is a mixer. Now this is an audio mixer on my left here. It's an Australian company called Rode. Rode's amazing. If you haven't heard of Rode, it's I think they're based in Sydney. They make microphones and mixers and stuff, and they're world class. And this is a fantastic entry level product. It's kind of prosumer. Basically, it means you can have 4 microphone XLR inputs. You can have a TRRS connection for a phone, which is a way of bringing a, oops, hang on, what did I do then? Press the wrong button. I was trying to bring a picture-in-picture in for you. You can bring in a, there we go, got myself in the picture now, put myself down the bottom there we go. You can bring in Bluetooth audio, so the Bluetooth button here is, so say you've got a phone that doesn't have an audio jack, you can connect and have people dial into your show, and you can plug a phone in directly. It's also got these sound pads where you have pre-recorded sounds. When you listen to my music on the show, I'll just play a little bit, it's there, I'm just pressing a button. So it's really good for, you can store music and voice and sound effects in those, and you can be really corny and go, wasn't that a great idea, everyone? And do things like that. So that's that mixer. It's got outputs for headphones, so you can have 4 guests sitting around a table, for instance, and do a podcast, and they've all got their own volume controls and their own headphones, and they can hear themselves on their own mics. So it's a great way for just doing a podcast. Just checking the comments. The other key thing I use is this here. So this is called the A10 Mini Pro. Now it's a production mixer. Mixers, I mean, I remember playing around with mixers when I was a student at uni, and they were like, $100,000 things. It's amazing. These are, started around about 500, and they go, depending on which model you've got, go up from there. And they're made from another Australian company called Blackmagic Design. Grant Perry is from Bendigo. He started and is still the CEO of Blackmagic Design. It's amazing that a little Australian company is now a world leader in both production, video mixing, and cameras. They make these amazing cameras. I'll mention that in a minute. But what this really does for me is, see these buttons across the bottom here? I've got 4 HDMI inputs that I can switch by pressing the buttons. Green means that's the next one up. It's the preview, and red means that's the one that's live going out now. And so I can switch views at a touch of a button. So if I press the cut button, you'll see me here, and then I can go back to my hands down here. I can key up another view. Another view might be, for instance, that side view, and then press cut. Now you're seeing me over here on the side view. So it makes for, if you've got more than one input, and I've actually got a computer as its HDMI output feeding into this as well. So rather than the main computer that I'm streaming from, I've got another computer which I can have content on, like, you know, that video you just watched is actually on another computer, and so I can cut to that like this, and you can see that video playing on another computer just through its HDMI output. All this becomes extremely simple, really. You don't have to be a geek, you just have to press a few buttons, and it all works beautifully. So that's the HDMI mixer basically. And lastly, just have an iPad. Generally I'd use that for things like, let's move myself up, you know, controlling my lights. So these are all my lights in the studio here. There's quite a few lights actually, just for mood, you know, like the colors behind me and stuff, so I can turn them on and off. These are aperture lights, so they're Bluetooth controlled, and also the main light and the hair light. So that's what this is. So that's basically what I run the show on, is an audio mixer, a production vision mixer, and a computer or two or three. So there you go. Okay. Now what else have we got here? Right. I'm just checking the comments. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Now, the other kind of aspect is just what's the setup in the room. People sometimes wonder how all this happens. So, yeah, look, lighting is really quite important to have a clear view of your subject. So, you know, I just got a softbox here, and I've got a hair light behind me, which is just kind of gives you a little bit of separation from your background. That's kind of nice. And I've also got a light above me, which is for green screen. Turn off now. Go. So that was the green screen, and so there you go. That's the setup that I use for running this show. Also, it's quite handy for broadcasting, or sorry, recording something that you want to post to YouTube later, or for editing. So, oops, got too many little pictures on there. Cool. All right, questions, anyone? And by the way, did anyone want to pop in and say hi? So I did pop a link into the chat there. If you've got a video camera and microphone on your computer, you can click on that link and you'll go into what's called the green room, and I can bring you on screen and we can just talk to each other. It can be just done live. I've had a few brave people do that. I say brave because it seems a bit unusual that you can just join into something that's going live without being a formal guest, but yes, it's totally doable. Yeah, so the other thing, I'm just focusing on the tech a little bit longer. In fact, I'll just bring up that key light a bit more. There we go. It's a little bit dim. That's it. What cameras, etc., do I use? Well, because I've got some studio cameras, and those are kind of fixed, big, heavy things. I brought one in here. So this is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. Now, it's not exactly a pocket camera by the size of it. As you can see, it's a huge thing. But for a cinema camera, that's actually really quite small. And I use one of those as my main camera that you're looking at now. It's the 4K, the smaller version. But that's probably an overkill, or certainly is an overkill for streaming, because mostly you're streaming at 1080 or even less. But I use it for recording content that I'll then edit into a video later on. I have some smaller cameras. Actually, it's a really cheap little Lumix camera up here. I actually got it with points from Velocity points, because when it looked like they were going under Virgin, I thought I'd better cash in all my points and spend them all on a camera. So just another little secondary camera that I can use for overhead, because when you want to show something, normally it's me drawing, so normally I'll have it pointing at a drawing pad, so you'll just see me doing some drawing on a sheet of paper like this, and it's the overhead camera. And that's all I normally use, just the main one and the overhead one. But today I just brought in a small vlogging camera so I could just show you the setup, and that's this one over here. This is my little vlog camera, just a tiny, it looks like a toy. It's a little Sony ZV E10. It's really, really small, which is nice for vlogging. It doesn't weigh much. But actually, these days, it's amazing the quality you get. It's a 4K camera, and little things like that are perfectly good as your main streaming camera as well, because they've got USB output to your computer, so you don't even need a vision mixer. You can just plug the little Sony ZV E10 into your computer, and away you go. You've got a really high quality camera rather than the one built into your computer. All right, so that's a little bit of the tech. that we use here. Lastly, probably is the software. Now, you may have seen that when I bring guests in, they can be split screen. You can have them to your side, or sometimes they'll be 3, and I can change the layout. I'm using what's called a streaming platform. It's called Restream.io. Restream and StreamYard are probably the 2 main platforms people use. The big advantage for me is I'm just using a web browser to control all of this layout and chat and overlays. So it makes it really easy. You don't have to be a technical person to do it. Like I can bring logos in like this. See, I put a little, they call them bugs. I can bring in lower thirds when I want to promote some lines, and I can just type that up and just press bring on screen. So all of this is just done on a web browser using Restream.io. The great thing about using it for guests, though, is with Zoom, people just like pop in, they appear, or there's a waiting room and you can see the name, but you can't talk to them. But with Restream, there's a video waiting room. I can see them on the side of the screen and no one else can see them, and they can hear me. And I can, chat to them via a chat window, and then I can say, "You're ready to come on?" in the chat window, and they go, "Yeah," and then I bring them on screen. So it's like having a real green room where your guests are off stage, and you bring them on, and you can lay them out in different arrangements on the screen. 2 up, 3 up, 4 up to 10 people at a time on the screen. So yeah, having that service is great, and it's one of those ones where depending on what features you want, it's a monthly payment. It starts off very cheap and it goes up from there. So it's very useful. It's also can be used for scheduled events. Sometimes I've done a few where I couldn't make it live on a Sunday, so I actually just recorded something and scheduled it in Restream, so I could go away and it would start playing at exactly 2 o'clock as if it was live. Though, of course, I couldn't do the chat stuff. Okay, I'm just looking through the comments now, and oh yeah, great. More people have subscribed. Gee, it's really coming in. And Stephen Zilm says BMD also have the best free Blackmagic design video editor, DaVinci Resolve. Thank you for reminding me, Stephen. Yeah, if you're a video editor, things have really got easy. It used to be, a complicated, expensive equipment, but now it's complicated, free equipment, which is, there's 2 versions of DaVinci Resolve, the free version, and then there's the paid version. The free version is got 95% of all the features you need. Well, 95% of all the features. The paid version, which is only like $350, I think, gives you some extra bonus features. And it's also made by that Australian company based here in Melbourne, Blackmagic Design. So yeah, thanks for reminding me, Stephen. It's my daily ride. I'm hanging out on Blackmagic Design. It's products, whether it's hardware or software, every day. Stephen also asked, how's your crypto mining going? Are you only daytime mining? Now, I got a little bit excited. Sam Frost from Vista Power Technologies gave me a couple of S9 miners, and I think that's what they were. Yeah. And they did 16 terahash roughly. And so he gave them because they use so much power. They're getting a little bit dated. They use about 1.45 kilowatts each when they're mining Bitcoin. So I was using them partly as load dumps for testing equipment and generating a bit of Bitcoin. I did start to kind of get a bit too excited, thinking I could just run them a lot. But actually, wintertime was still a problem here because we don't actually have a huge amount of storage to run our microgrid. We've got 7 homes connected to it with a usable 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. So we cycle it every day right down to 20 or 30%. So it wasn't really that much room for running miners overnight as well. But certainly when daytime comes on, the solar farm kicks in and we have plenty of energy. So I will be doing some automated mining soon, Stephen. So thanks for reminding me on that one. And hello to David. David says hi. And Kane says, I see a Unify switch in your setup. Do you use this product for all your networking? Wow. Gee, you're very astute there. Yes, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to networking. In fact, I used to run a web hosting business, and so I got into networking quite deeply. And I'm just looking around here. I think I can even share screen on that one. But yeah, I use Unify system here in my office and the lab to run all the systems. I've got about 160 devices on my network, so it's it's getting to be quite a handful. So you need good management software to do all that. So I'm just seeing if I've got it on screen. Yeah, I think I have. No. So I was just going to share the desktop view of the UDM Pro, but it sounds like Kane, you know all about Unify. So if you're into networking and you want a good control system for all of your network devices, I can highly recommend Unify. Okay, any other questions? That was me just giving you a big splurge on tech, a short history of me in the solar industry, and a whole lot of thank yous for everyone who's made this show possible. And I can see Kane saying he used to look after 300 sites on a cloud-based Unify controller. Yeah, wow, that's a lot. Okay, you win. Actually, I just think I can show you the controller now. Here we go. So there you go. Let's put myself down the bottom somewhere. There we go. What you're looking at there is the dashboard for Unify, and it's got lots of different views. But as you can see right now, we've got that's the amount of traffic flow, number of clients online at the moment, even down to what operating systems are being run, what the Wi-Fi networks are like. There's about a dozen access points. And there's the gateways. Now, I actually had to drop out the Starlink gateway and go into my fallback Optus gateway because we had some dropouts just then. But normally there's two WAN ports, one for Optus and one for Starlink, and they work on a full failover basis. So if one gets congested or starts to lose packets, it'll go over to the other one, which is exactly what's happened just now. Okay. Tradie Trev, g'day. How you going there, Tradie Trev? You've always got some good comments. And look, for those of you who just joined or joined late into the show, just want to reiterate that I'm going to be starting a new channel called Everything Off Grid, and it won't be live, it'll be pre-recorded, and it'll be a dedicated YouTube channel called Everything Off Grid. And a whole bunch of people just signed up to it because I've only just started it. I had one subscriber this morning, and hopefully I've got more now. But if you want to help out and get me up to 100, because I need to get to 100, there's the link. I've just hit it in the restream. If you just hit the subscribe button and I get to 100, then I can actually give the channel a proper name, because I want it to be Everything Off Grid. And it's all going to be about talking about living off grid, all of the all the dimensions of living off grid. So it's not just geeky technical stuff. It will be social stuff, it'll be gardening, it'll be cooking, you name it. So Everything Off Grid is the name of that show. Okay, just looking around, see what chats are coming in. Oh, g'day, Saif. Oh, yes, thank you. You subscribed as well. Wow, really feeling the love today. And I have indeed throughout the I think it was 129 I counted shows that I've done. Now that's including all the Sundays as well as all the midweek ones, because I actually did a whole bunch of midweek ones. Certainly at the beginning of lockdown, I did a 13-part series on designing a solar battery storage system. So that was for over 13 1-hour, 2-hour sessions, I think it was, or 1-hour sessions. So I recorded all those. Then I did Tuesdays. I was trying to do every day of the week for a while there, do some tech stuff. So yeah, total of 129 on this this playlist. So yeah, Toolbox Tech Talk has been really busy over the last 18 months. And thanks to you for watching. Often the audience, live audience, like at the moment, I can see there's about 20 people watching this live, very engaged 20 people. But within hours of it, finishing, lots of people watch it post live. So it gets a pretty good audience in the hundreds pretty quickly. Now, the other thing I didn't mention about restreaming or restream.io, there's another product called StreamYard, which I know has similar features, is you don't have to just stream to one platform. I stream to 10 different channels. So I stream to quite a few Facebook groups, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. So you can actually hit all of your social media in one go from one delivery platform, in this case, Restream. There you go. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. And Timothy asks, are you going to restart your courses again soon? Thanks for reminding me, Timothy. So I've had a bit of a sea change in terms of training. I used to run courses here on a regular basis, face-to-face. About every 6 weeks or so, I'd have a course here. But actually, I've moved away to doing online training. Now, there's a link to where you can enroll in my latest online training course, Battery Standards Crash Course, I call it, because it's really for people who need to get to the guts of the new battery standard, AS NZS 5139, and really understand the complexity of it quickly. So it's a couple of sessions. In terms of face-to-face, look, it's been a nightmare trying to organise anything. Abby, I can see you in the green room. Just stand by. I'll bring you on in a minute. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a nightmare trying to organise anything face-to-face because previously to COVID, my students came from everywhere, mostly Australia, like, every state and territory, a good sizable number from New Zealand and a smattering from international. I've had students from Nigeria, the Philippines, China, Sweden, Pacific Islands, I can't remember all the places they've come from, but yeah, Taiwan. I had a professor from Taiwan come and do my course. That was amazing. So yeah, until international travel is open again, it doesn't seem like a great idea to try and run face-to-face. So I'm really focusing on the online delivery, but at the same time, I'm actually in building up the facility here, ready to do face-to-face again when it's possible. So that's something that almost on a weekly basis, my electrician Anne and I adding new products to the line for training, and hence I do all those videos talking about products. But they will be available for students to get hands-on once we can open up fully. So I did ask a few people if they wanted to come on live and just have a bit of a chat. So I've got Abby. Abby, are you ready? Give us a thumbs up if you're ready. Got a thumbs up from Abby. Cool. All right, I'll just bring him on. So this is how Restream works so beautifully. I can see him in the green room off on the sidebar. He can hear me, but you can't see him. And when he's ready, I just bring him on. Here you go. G'day, Abby.
Hello, Glenn. How are you?
I'm very good. And where are you coming to us from?
From Adelaide. So I escaped the lockdown pretty early. And I just, go on.
So why? I know the answer. It's the Dorothy Dix, but for the audience, why are you in lockdown? Or were?
So I'm actually not in lockdown. I came out a bit early from Melbourne. So I moved to Motherson, or SMR Automotive, as they are popularly known here in Australia. So they are starting their own renewable division. So this will be like, not immediately, but 1 or 2 years down the lane, we'll be starting to manufacture design and manufacture Australian solar inverters.
Wow. Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, I should tell the audience that I've known Abby for many years. We met in the days when you worked for SolarX. We went to China together with Fox ESS. That was an amazing journey. Absolutely the most memorable trip I've been on. And we got back just before COVID closed everything off. So we were pretty lucky there. And now you've got a new venture with Motherson SMR in Adelaide.
Yes, definitely. It's actually quite exciting with Motherson because I didn't know that. So just to give you an introduction about, obviously, Glenn, you know about this, but just for everybody, SMR Automotive manufactures for automotive industry, as the name suggests, mostly rear view mirrors, camera systems, intelligent monitoring systems, and everything for the car industry. Now, they were actually the company hold by SMR itself. I think they have roughly around 24 plants across 10 countries or so, and they hold almost 24% of the market share globally, that is manufacturing for the automotive industry. So they're actually quite big, and at least I didn't know that there was a company like this in Australia, right behind in our back door. So when I came here and I looked at their factory, I was very much quite impressed. That is what motivated me, and it's definitely good that they are actually trying to branch into renewables.
Yeah, like I was very impressed. I've been there a couple of times, and a company that's been manufacturing in Australia for 35 years. I think about 600 staff from
Yep,
memory,
yep, yep,
and many of them have been rusted on. Like they really have loyal staff, and
yes,
but they can see the writings on the wall for the automotive parts industry. It's going to change so much with electric vehicles, and the fact that
yep,
we're not really making cars in Australia anymore. Well, certainly not making internal combustion engine cars anymore. So they're pivoting. Like many of us in COVID have, but they've planned this for many years. Is where do we go next with our workforce, with our skill base, and they can see renewables are the future. So hats off to SMR for seeing a way forward with their business by pivoting to a new industry.
yeah, definitely. There's one interesting one thing that actually helped me to change, or they actually promoted me to change was the philosophy here. So when I spoke with the company, as a company like big as SMR, they have factories all over the world, right? So I asked them, look, okay, where would we be manufacturing if we design something? Where would we be manufacturing it? And the vice president there said, I mean, there's no discussion. It's going to be in Australia for sure. So they don't want to export any manufacturing here. They want to start and manufacture local. That is their main motto, and why they're actually jumping into renewables.
Right. Wow. So we'll have another renewable energy manufacturing company in Australia very soon. I mean, I
Yeah.
know you can't say much, but we'll watch this space. And
Well, I can. If you, I can. I'll try to reveal as much as this as I
yep,
can
yep.
that has been developed. Yeah, but March is a date that you should watch.
Yeah, I mean, when you know that this is a company that's made products for McLaren, for their high performance sports cars,
Yeah,
have innovated medical equipment that's got a high level of testing and compliance requirements. You know that their
yeah,
engineering is really up there, and I've seen
yeah.
their facility. They make everything. It's not like we'll just
Yes,
assemble it here and call it Australian made. Nah, in comes resistors and circuits, components, and they make the circuit boards and solder it all together, build the whole thing. So yeah, it's truly Australian made.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. I saw some brands there, Glenn. I'm not sure if you have seen or something. I saw that and I was like, whoa, these brands get. I mean, we supply for these brands, and they said, please be quiet. We like to keep low key. So I'm not able to tell it outside with the brands, but big brands are being made here. I mean, like rear view mirrors. There's also, I'm not sure. Have you heard about logo lamps? Where you open the door of a car and then a light shines down with the logo.
Oh yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So some of those lamps are also being made here in Adelaide.
I saw the robot that assembles them. That's the other thing that
Ah,
really
yeah,
blew me away is an industry like a 35-year-old industry could easily be stuck in the past going, we do it all by hand because that's how we've always done it. They realized that actually robots are part of the solution for low cost, but they still kept their staff, but they just added robots and a few more engineers to manage the robots. And so
yeah,
they're making parts competitive to the world market.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Stephen just said, gives you a shout out there because I know Stephen's been to the factory. He's in Adelaide, so yeah, he
Oh,
loves. He thinks they're a great story too.
thanks, Steven.
Abby, I'm just going to
Yep,
drop into a couple of the questions here.
yep.
So just hang on, don't go away. So someone's asked, how do you see the future of DIY off-grid solar in Australia, given the plethora of standards and regulations? This is from David. Yeah, no, have you got any thoughts on this?
Uh, I'm not much into off-grid solar or yet. Glenn, not as much as you have been. So I think I'll leave this to you. With do it yourself, it's just to get around the fact of the regulations and everything. I do know that for anything that is connected on grid, there's a few numbers. I'm just not familiar with off grid ones.
Fair enough. That's a bit mean of me to throw that one at you. So, look, for anyone who's travelled around the world, particularly in developing nations, they know that DIY is the norm because equipment's expensive and people do it themselves. I started off as a DIY solar installer, so there you go. I taught myself. But the industry has now grown to a level of professionalism and also the size and capacity and the electrical safety requirements of equipment have changed, so that it's very limited what you can do on a DIY basis. Basically, the electrical regulations come into force, and once you get over certain voltage levels, so if you're over 120 volts on a PV array, over 60 volts on a battery system, or over 50 volts AC in an AC system, it's licensed electrical work. So pretty much any of that will mean you're going to have to use an electrician, both to be safe and to be legal. So yeah, sorry, David, it is actually a changing environment. Safety just keeps going up in terms of regulation. Tradie says, what does Tradie say? He says DIY equals die. The Victorian government tells me. Yeah, that's probably be driven by accidents. That regulation keeps increasing. Mark says, Mark, you probably realise I'm a Kiwi, so I always say NZS when I mention a standard, because they are joint standards mostly that we deal with. So ASNZS standards. And it is a bit annoying when people just drop the full name. So yeah, we've got joint standards with New Zealand for most of our renewables. The PVRA standard 5033, the inverter standard 4777, the battery standard 5139. So they're all joint standards. Thanks for that one. Hey, Abby, any other hot tips you can tell us from your arrival in South Australia? You enjoyed the climate, the COVID restrictions, or lack of them?
Actually, yes, I did enjoy. At first, I was sad that I had to leave Melbourne and come here, but it's still temporary, not permanent. At first, I was sad, yes, but after that, looking at how Melbourne went down, I felt okay. It's good that I came out, but still, Adelaide's a great city, and falling in love with Adelaide. Not loving the restrictions though, and not able to travel to Melbourne. But other than that, it's good. It's great. Today's been a lovely day. I think it's 27. I'm not sure. I didn't step out. It's still a sunny day here.
Oh, cool. Hey, I'm getting a whole bunch of texts from Jack Longy. So he couldn't make it for the show. He's like, being a Melburnian and the first weekend of no lockdown, he's probably just out having a beer somewhere legally. So Jack's sending a whole bunch of comments via Messenger right at the moment. But so, Abby, thanks for dropping in. It's great to have you, and we'll look forward to hearing more about SMR Mother Son.
Definitely.
Okay. See ya. Yeah, there you go. So it's nice to have the live audience members drop in on us and say hi. So look, we're coming to the top of the hour, which is kind of what I generally try to run the show at. So it's been great, and I'm mixed feelings. A little bit sad to be finishing, but I'm hoping to take you all with me on my new adventure in everything off-grid. But that won't be a Sunday live. It will be my YouTube channel, Everything Off-Grid. So check that one out. And thanks enormously to everyone who just subscribed. I'm just going to do a little subscriber check count here, see how many I've got now. 39! Wow! I think I had 4 at the start of the show. I got 39 subscribers. I've got to get to 100, so go and get your friends to subscribe as well. Shameless plug. I'll put the link there again. So if you want to bing on that. And look, I promise to be entertaining. So, I'm not just getting subscribed to make money, because it's not about that at all. It's actually, I don't know if any of you people are YouTubers out there, but with audience numbers like me, I get cents. I don't get dollars worth of income from it. So it's tiny. It's actually about, telling people about something I'm passionate about, which is off-grid living. So that's what the show is going to be. Well, the channel. I shouldn't call it a show. It's a channel, Everything Off-Grid on YouTube. So, yeah, you'll probably catch me there. But, look, it's time for me to hang up my chain. I don't know if I can even get the thing off anymore. Let's see if I can get it off. There we go. Hung up the chain. And by the way, for the bemused people out there who wonder what's the gold chain stuff all about, it actually started as a joke. Because I was doing Toolbox TechTalk, talking about Australian standards and stuff, it seemed like a pretty dry subject. So I kind of hammed it up a little bit, and I think I put on a gold chain. And then some of my fans sent me another one, and I got a gold wristband. I even got gold earrings sent to me. I don't wear those; a bit hard underneath the headphones. But yeah, that's what it was all about. And it was a lot of fun going to the Smart Energy Expo and wearing my gold chain, because half the people there kind of knew who I was, and those who didn't thought, "Who's this?" I won't say the word. Starts with W, wearing a gold chain, walking around. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I'm getting some thank yous there. That's great. Trady Trev, Saif, Stephen, David, Mark. Wow, this has been the most chatted show yet. So thanks everyone, and I guess I'll see you on everything off grid very soon. So it's time for me to roll the credits. I don't even have credits, and maybe just plug a caption or two, and thank my audience for all their attention over the time, over the last 129 shows. So to round off, you can always check out my channel on YouTube. There it is, Smart Energy Lab. You can follow me on Twitter. Not very, very busy on Twitter, but I just post a few announcements there. Also, a few pics on Instagram. And if you're interested in enrolling any of my online courses, there's the link to my online courses, soloequip.com. Click the button training. And my next course is actually coming up on the 4th and 5th of November. So coming up pretty soon. And you'll be able to learn all the things you need to know about batteries. It's a battery standards crash course. There you go. All right. Thanks, everyone. Time for the music. Oh, wrong music. Jeez, I can't even get my show finished properly. Here we go. Change the music.